Hi, it's me. Just waiting for people to join, so I'm going to pause the recording for now. Okay, we're back to weekly workshops. Now, this workshop is about the brain science of patterns. But while I'm waiting for people to join, and while I'm trying to sort out what my hair is doing, just thought I'd let you know that patterns are not, as some people will tell you, all negative, but they can sometimes be negative. But one of the patterns that I was reminded of just this afternoon was my pattern of thinking about gardening while I'm gardening. And it's actually like a positive pattern, because when I'm, mowing the grass, I can see what plants need to be cut back, what needs to be tied up, what things I want to do next. Or I might notice that the fence needs another coat of paint, as I noticed this afternoon. But a lot of people, when they're doing a task, a particular task, are not even thinking of that task. And this is something that I've kind of made myself do so much in the last 5-10 years, that being present in the moment has become, a really amazing driving force for what I do, for my coaching, for my workshops, for even my breath work, and literally every minute of my day and night while I'm dreaming. Seriously, patterns come into it. Last night I was dreaming about puzzles, not jigsaw puzzles, but like trying to figure things out. All of the dreams are all about trying to figure things out. And that's because I'm at a point in my life and my business where I'm just I'm making things work in a different way to I did last year. So now you can join my program whenever you want to join it. You don't have to wait for the next start date to come along. There's no sitting around on waiting lists. And instead of having the program module 1, module 2, module 3, and so on in the order that I think it ought to be done, I'm now doing it completely in the order that you need it. And there's loads more information about that in other sources. So I'm going to stop rabbiting about that and just going to talk about this week's subject. Now, on Monday, or it might have been Tuesday, I opened the conversation reminding everybody that your brain, is designed for one thing and one thing only, nothing else, just this one thing, and that is survival. A lot of brain scientists will tell you that the front of the brain is where the personality is, and where our goals and our dreams and our ambitions and all that stuff goes on. Yeah, it does, but it's all tainted with survival. Some people who study brain science will tell you that the survival center of the brain is all back here in the oldest part of your brain. But there's been more recent studies and proof come up that actually that survival part of your brain, though it is focused on it, actually communicates with all of the rest of your brain, as well as your body via your central nervous system. So those three parts of the brain, the reptile, the mammal, the human, are not as separate as they were once thought to be. And people pleasers in particular, my favorite people, God bless them, I am one. I would always like to say that I used to be one. One day I'm going to say that I used to be one. But I think that there's still a little bit of it in me lurking in a corner somewhere. And we are programmed in our early life to become people pleasers and to become the members of society that are programmed to serve others. And this can be a really good thing, and it can be a not so helpful thing. In the world of work, for instance, an employee who's a people pleaser is a really good person to have around. But along with people pleasing comes perfectionism. And if you have a boss who's a perfectionist, it can be a bit of a nightmare. So we all have these, different traits. There are 400 identifiable psychological traits that we're all born with. It just depends on which ones become louder and which ones stay quieter. This mistake, though, to go full-blown people pleaser, as I call it, it's a mistake in this context, because that programming and patterning is not even us. It's not even me. It is a response to things that have happened. It's not, a thing that's wrong with you. It's a product of things that happened to you. It's a trauma response. Consequently, people pleasers often, very often, put everybody else's needs ahead of their own. And in themselves, this causes overwhelm, exhaustion, burnout, resentment, even. And it is a difficult place to be when you find yourself actually resenting your loved ones because of the amount of time you spend, being mum's taxi or doing all of the accounts for your husband. Yeah. But what I encourage my clients and the people in my program to do is to look at those patterns with curiosity, and sometimes with a little bit of tough love to sprinkle in and see whether the overall effect of that people pleasing, the overall effect of that doing everything for everybody, excuse my phone, it's on silent, but it still makes weird noises, can't figure it out. Anyway, where was I? Oh yes, curiosity. Looking at your patterns with curiosity to see if the overall effect, the overall outcome is a helpful one. The thing is that if you can balance the positive aspects of people pleasing, in that you get a lot out of serving, and people get a lot out of you supporting them, if you can balance that with refueling yourself and keeping yourself top of your own, people pleaser list, then it is distinctly possible that more gets done, literally more. Just going to have one more go. Maybe I should just turn it off. Should I turn it off and see what happens? Okay, power off. Power off. No, that's not power off. Seems to think that Google wants to talk to me. I don't want to talk to Google. There we go. Power off. See if it's quieter. Oh, see, it's buzzed already. What is going on? So anyway, so next time that you, as a people pleaser, if you are a people pleaser, automatically say yes to yet another task, think about whether or not, take that moment of curiosity. You may find it helpful to say something like, can I have 10 minutes to just think about whether or not I can fit that in, because I don't want to let you down. Yeah, put it like that. Take a minute and see whether or not that additional task is helpful for everybody involved, or if the one person who's going to suffer from it is you. Of course, I've put together 9 modules like this, going deep into each of these subjects in my 3P system. Just a second, I need a drink. So, and then I think it was Wednesday or Thursday, I put a post up about the unstoppable Julie, who came to me as a client early on in the life of the 3P system. And she's now, I'm so grateful, she is now a mentor to my current clients who are doing the 3Ps system. So this is an actual real person. If you want to see her beautiful face and hear from her, look for the post a couple of days ago, because there's a link to a YouTube video that she did for me, just a little ditty video about her experience in 3Ps. Anyway, when she first started, the thing that she said to me that kind of attached me to her outcome, which is not a good thing, by the way. We'll come back to that. But the thing that attached me to her outcome is that she said that there was nothing left of her. She was so busy doing this and 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 this, but she didn't even know who Julie was anymore, because she had to take her kids to every single appointment, whether it was dentists, doctors, getting new shoes. She had to do it all. That another one of her major problems was her mum-in-law was invading her home and her life with negativity. I will leave it up to you whether or not she chooses to tell you what happened. But she couldn't even make a boundary strong enough to protect her kids. And that she was so committed to piles and piles and piles of volunteer work. Whenever she's on a call with me, I always introduce her as the amazing woman who can create a conference for like 200 people, including accommodation and everything that goes along with it. I mean, geez, that's an amazing thing. And she did that completely as a volunteer. And when you think about all of the things it takes to run a family with 3 kids and a husband and a job and all this kind of stuff, it's hardly surprising that out of the 9 modules, 4 breathworks and meditation in the 3-piece system, she needed like all of it. But she came into that program willing to do the work. And this is something that I have to explain quite firmly to each new client that comes in, and every client that's done it since her, basically. And that is that, you know, just because, you know, one module is an hour long video and another module is 15 minutes long, there's no less work. Yeah? In the hour-long module, it's probably because I'm doing more of it for you. And in the 15-minute module, it means that there's a lot more for you to do yourself. That's why the program has weekly calls. But anyway, during her time in that course, she dug into all of the stuff that was going on in her family. And there were amazing little wins, like the day she told me that her husband had taken one of her kids to an appointment. It was like, you know, I was smiling, she was smiling, everybody was smiling. But the whole point is that this had become so patterned in her brain that she didn't even see an alternative to it initially. And I think it was like Tuesday, I actually put it in the post about her. So I'm gonna read what she said. She said, we're going to visit my family in a few weeks. I'm going to have to do the release breath work a few times, even before we go. So now it's been like, I think it's over a year now. And it's just so wonderful to know that she's still getting benefit from the program, that she's still using those tools, still using the techniques. And you know, why wouldn't you? Because these patterns, and this is where I'm coming into the brain science of it for you today. Put it this way, all of your perceptions of life come from your brain's reactions and interpretation of everything that has happened to you, whether you remember it or not, right up to this moment and this moment and this moment. So this moment contains those other moments. Yeah. And it's your brain who kind of decides the answers to questions like, who are you? Your opinions. Yeah. Are your opinions real? Or are they collections of what other people have told you? Just minimizing that thing away. No, minimizing that thing away. There we go. So let's dive into the brain science. The brain science of patterns and habits involve the well, it's the research and the understanding that's gone into understanding how the brain processes and forms repetitive behaviors and routines. And that's what a pattern is. It's a repetitive behavior or a routine. Now, there are 6 main aspects to this. So grab a pen. The first one, neural pathways. The neural pathways are the routes that decisions make through your brain. Yeah? And these pathways are made when a decision is made. So let's go back to something really basic. A child touches something hot. It's the first time they've touched something hot. They feel the ow. They may even look at the hand and then take the hand away from the hot object. While that's going on, the brain is going, okay, hot equals move. Yeah, it's a really simple pathway. Hot equals move. So now, as adults, we may touch something and our hand has come off the hot thing before the awareness has formed that we've touched something hot. When we repeat a behavior, no matter what that behavior is, whether it's smoking, comfort eating, or taking your hand off something hot, a neural pathway is not only created, but it's then really established and strengthened over time. And this allows the brain to perform that behavior more efficiently, automatically. Yeah. Because the other thing that the brain does alongside that survival thing is saving energy. It's really important for human beings to use as little energy as possible on the day-to-day, because that's how we've survived thousands of years. Talking of 1,000 years, I think, I'm not quite sure of the numbers. Hang on, have I got it written down? No, I haven't got it on my notes for today, but I'm going to guess. Right, I'll put my hand on my heart and say this is a guess. I've got a feeling that humans, as we stand right now, have been on the planet for about 150,000 years. And if you turn that time into an hour, say it's an hour, we've only been living outside small tribes for the last 6 minutes or so. Yeah, of that hour. And that change from living as part of a close-knit group, the hunter-gatherer tribes, settling down, claiming a piece of land, working that piece of land, and then our kids claiming the bit of land next to us, and their kids claiming a bit of land a bit further away, and our towns then becoming big patches of controlled land, yeah, to the point where the first family in the middle has a grandchild or a great-grandchild, and they have to move quite a long way away from their original family group. That saving energy thing was very important in that tribal time, and it's less important now. Can't remember why I got there. Oh yes, because the neural pathways that form allow the brain to be more efficient. Okay, another quick swig. I think I'm going to be taking lots of these. The pollen here at the moment is mental. Right. The next kind of key point in this brain science thing has got to be basal ganglia. The basal ganglia is a group of structures. It's not like one thing. It's a group of structures deep in the core of the brain, and they play that central crucial role to habit formation. The group of structures there work through like the first step, like the initiation, the execution of the thing, and then the reinforcement of those habitual behaviors. Almost like the habitual behavior that has ladies reaching out for the toilet tissue when they finish peeing, or waking up and cleaning your teeth. Those things that become so, those movements you do when you're standing by the kettle in the morning, mug, tea bag, sprinkle of sugar, water in it. We don't really think what are the next 3 steps in making a cup of tea while we're making a cup of tea, because we've learnt it. Then that routine, that habit information becomes initiated, executed, and reinforced over and over and over and over again. So the basal ganglia is involved in that habit loop. And psychologically speaking, it's usually referred to as cue, routine, reward. So in a slightly longer sentence, that habit loop consists of the cue or the trigger, the thing that reminds you that that habit behavior needs to happen next, the routine of the behavior itself, and reward or reinforcement. So say we're talking about the cup of tea. You come down the stairs, you go into the kitchen, you open the curtain, you switch the kettle on. Yeah, you're not even thinking about making a cup of tea, you're just doing it. So it's the coming down the stairs that is the cue or trigger for that behavior, in my case anyway. The routine behavior itself is all of those little movements that I was talking about that go together making that cup of tea, and the reward is the cup of tea. Okay, let's I think I'm going to intentionally take a swig between each of these 6 points because I'm not going to make it to the end otherwise. Oh, that water is so lovely and cold. So, dopamine. Let's talk dopamine. Dopamine is the specific neurotransmitter that is linked to habit formation. Yeah, it is released in your brain when you experience that pleasure reward. So, the sitting down right here where I'm sitting now, elbows on the table, cuppa in my hand, that first sip. Yeah, that's my dopamine hit for the morning. So it's released when there's that pleasure reward, and it reinforces the behavior so that tomorrow morning I'm even more likely to come down, and the first thing I do is make a cup of tea. It becomes more and more likely as each day goes by. And that's why, when people talk about giving up coffee, it's a nightmare. It's so hard because you get into that routine. And we talk about it like, oh, it's just a routine, but it's actually, this neural pathway formed in the basal ganglia that hits you with dopamine every day, yeah, just for making yourself a cuppa. So that's essentially the role that dopamine plays in the formation of habit, because it creates that sense of anticipation or motivation. Motivation is not my favorite word generally, but in this situation, it is very appropriate. Let's just go off on a little tangent, shall we? The reason why I don't like motivation is what you need to do something that you don't want to do. Yeah. Whereas, there's so many reasons to do the things that we want to do that if we want to do them, the last thing we need is motivation. Just saying. Anyway, let's not digress too far because we're already 20 minutes in. Okay, prefrontal cortex, right up here at the front of the brain, in this very front bit right here. The prefrontal cortex is involved in decision making, planning, goal-directed behavior. So this could be the thing that gets you out of the door to train for a marathon, yeah. Or it could be, for me, spending a certain number of hours every single day in my business, because I have a goal to serve people, and without having a business that runs and creates content for you guys to see, there is no business, there is no point in it for me. So initially, when we perform a new behavior, say, the prefrontal cortex is highly active at that point as you consciously make individual decisions and exert that self-control that it takes to sit down and work in my business or get yourself out the door for that training for the marathon. Yeah. But as the behavior becomes more habitual, the prefrontal cortex's involvement decreases and basal ganglia takes over with that cue, routine, reward little cycle. And your brain at the front, you know, that conscious part of your brain doesn't have to think about it anymore, as is with the example of making the tea. So next, let's talk specifically about habit loops. As I said before, those habit loops are a 3-step loop: cue, routine, reward. The cue is the thing that prompts you to initiate, that prompts you to start doing whatever it is you're doing. The routine is the behavior itself, which can be physical and can be mental. But the reward is that positive reinforcement that follows the behavior. And addiction can form its own habit loops. And this is where I'm talking about patterns becoming sometimes less than positive. So I'm going to talk about a habit loop that creates just for the sake of it, a drug addiction. Yeah? The cue could be that every time you go to a particular person's house, they give you some cocaine. Yeah. It then becomes routine. Your brain then expects it, which is the beginning of that habit loop. So it's expecting the dopamine, it's expecting the reward. And this is where I want to separate it from. Your brain is not necessarily expecting the drug. Yeah. What your brain is leading you towards is the feeling of togetherness and bonding that you get when you go to that person's house and you get that drug and you're together, all taking that drug together. Yeah, because in addition to the effects that the drug gives you, you get that hit of dopamine. And over time, the reward of the dopamine and the reward of the drug itself reinforce the habit. So you then have habit and pattern running alongside each other. Yeah. If you've got any questions about any of this, by the way, just drop them below wherever you see this. And if it's in the Facebook group, I'll probably get to it quite quickly. If you see this group, see this video at some point in the future on YouTube or somewhere else, yeah, just ask me the question. Wherever you see this video, there's going to be a way to contact me. Anyway, so the last thing I want to talk about, quick swig, is my favorite word ever. You like, well, it's neuroplasticity. This is the brain's ability to change and adapt. Yeah. So that plastic is the formation of, plasticity is the flexibility of, neuroplasticity is that ability for your brain to change and adapt. And this is the absolute crucial part of habit formation, because when you repeat that behavior, the neural connections, those neural pathways, that route is strengthening. And to a point, if you're reinforcing a new habit over an old one, as you reinforce and reinforce and reinforce and strengthen and put all of your effort into this new pathway, the old pathway just fades away. Just fades away. So you don't have to unlearn unwelcome habits and behaviors. You can just replace them with something else. Yeah. It's that simple. Because when you repeat that new behavior and you're constantly seeking out proof for that new behavior to give you the dopamine hit, there will come a point where the habit loop kicks in and it becomes a habit, and the old habit is no longer being fed. That reminds me of that American Indian story about the wise old man telling the boy about how his life will be ruled by 2 wolves. One is good and one is evil. And the boy asks, which wolf will win? And the old man replies, the one you feed. And it's the same with your habits. If you want a particular habit, feed it. Feed it proof, feed it repetition, feed it reward. Yeah. If you, when I first started really tanking water, like this is as big as my head, by the way, it's not this big, it's this big. When I first started drinking water properly, not just drinking it casually, as we do when we're not thinking about it, I created little rewards. Drink 2 liters of water every day for a week and get a thing. Yeah. I can't even remember what they are now. It was so long ago. But whenever you're creating a new reward or you're creating a new habit and you're forming the nuts and bolts of it, at that point where your prefrontal cortex is that magical phrase, exerting self-control. Yes, but when that prefrontal cortex is doing the work, if you hang a reward out there, if you have that carrot in front of you, that new habit will be formed more quickly and more efficiently. And those corresponding brain regions, depending on what the habit is, will become more efficient at executing that behavior with less and less and less prefrontal cortex input. And because the other way around, if you're breaking a habit, you can rewire a brain by creating new neural pathways that take the strength and the focus and the reward away from the original pathway. So I really enjoyed this part of my training in particular. And, I've literally just scratched the surface of the brain science that we learned. In half an hour, there's no way that I can cover all of it. And these are supposed to be, after all, mini workshops. So if you do have any questions or you want me to do a workshop with more detail about specific aspects of brain science, all you've got to do is ask. Because for me, understanding how your brain works and how it creates patterns and how habits can help you intentionally develop positive behaviors, take strength away from those undesirable ones, brings me back to that first thing that I said right at the beginning of this workshop, where I was talking about actually co-creating your life. You can leverage your brain's ability and capacity to rewrite its programming, to shape your own habits, to be more in line with your current goals and aspirations compared to, maybe goals that you had 15, 20 years ago. Yeah. Because what I said near the beginning of this is that all of your perceptions come from your brain's reactions and interpretations of everything that has happened to you, like up to now. And up to now. And up to this moment. I really hope that you've enjoyed being with me in this moment today, doing this workshop. It was a lot of fun trying to figure out a subject that I could, do in 30 minutes and cover well enough in 30 minutes. But like I said, if you want any further information about the 3Ps system, reach out however you want to. If you want more information about brain science, there's a couple of really stonking good books out there. One of the best ones, actually, just to give a plug to this man, because he deserves every plug in the world. Mr. James Clear, what a hero, whoop, whoop. Yes, Atomic Habits, brilliant book. It says on here, tiny changes, remarkable results. Atomic Habits is an easy and proven way to build good habits and break old ones. Over 1 million copies sold at the time I bought this, which was a while back, to be honest with you, 3 years now. But yeah, it's a great book. I always have it handy because there's some really useful exercises and stuff in there for beginning to rewire yourself. So yes, I'm going to leave it there for now. because there's still some light, which means I can still do some more gardening. I do love my gardening. This time of year is like a favorite time of year for me, with everything growing. By the time we get into summer and everything's grown, and I'm reaping fruits and things from strawberries and runner beans and whatever else I decide to grow this year, it's not so exciting. But my favorite time of year is definitely spring, deciding what to put where in the garden in particular. Okay, well, that's all for now. I shall see you in the group. Got a really hectic weekend, which is why last week went a bit weird. So I'm quite busy tomorrow, but we're back at it on Monday with a completely new topic. I don't even know what we're going to be talking about next week. Can't decide. I've got so many options. So yeah, if there's ever anything that you want me to talk about in particular, please do let me know. So many opportunities for you to let me know. And yeah, bye for now.